Cory Booker, he's taken a stand here. He's really, really angry. He gave a speech on the Senate floor yesterday. He's very upset, and then we'll tell you what about in just a second.
That's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me, because there's too much on the line right now in America. As people's due process rights and freedom of the speech rights, and secret police are running around this country, picking people up off the streets who have a legal right to be here. There's too much going on in this country. When are we going to stand together?
There's too much going on in this country
that I just heard that we're agreed with. When are we going to stand together?
Yeah. He's a big nothing ever happens guy, so he doesn't like that. Like, too much is going on.
Yeah, I'm very overstimulated right now.
I like how he puts the secret. I like how he puts the secret police are rounding people up, like after all of the police funding. He's like, oh yeah, like we want to give funding to the police, but also there are separate police that are rounding people up and putting them in secret concentration camps. It's like, oh yeah. But like those are different police that we're not going to be giving this funding to, apparently.
Right. So what this is all over is, first of all, like there's obviously discontent in like the Democratic base, and you have senators who are reacting to it. Cory Booker was one of the first to react in a way that he thought, was good, where he broke the record for that speech and took it from Strom Thurmond. And at the time, there were no Democrats really doing anything at all, and so we didn't cover it because it meant little except to take this title from a racist in the Senate, sure. But beyond that, it didn't mean too much. A few weeks later, Chris Van Hollen went down to El Salvador and got to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia when there was no leadership on that front at all. And that was an action that I think showed real fight with tangible results, because it made the pressure on the Trump administration, it heightened it, it turned up the heat, and the Supreme Court did rule that they had to return him. But I don't know, without Chris Van Hollen pushing the issue and other Democrats making this case, if that would have happened. A huge reason the administration's argument fell apart was because Van Hollen was able to see him in person, and it showed that they could get him out of CCOT, which was like a central claim saying, oh, we have no authority to make this happen. Well, a U.S. senator did it. Certainly the president could do so. So that was an example of real leadership. And it made Cory Booker's performative stuff, which was very much focused on an individual record, and it's his kind of, his rants there were very much about himself there too. It fell on deaf ears because people are looking for politicians not to speak about themselves or do these kinds of grand gestures that center themselves, but like Zoran, or like what Van Hollen did, putting themselves on the line to stand up for people who don't have a voice, because that's what's necessary right now. And what we were talking about here was, let's put this up. This is Politico. It explains what this fight was over, and you'll laugh at how silly this is. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker scolded fellow Democrats Tuesday for not having enough backbone to resist President Donald Trump in a fiery floor exchange. That's the quote. We heard that. This is the reason. The bills in question are aimed at equipping police with trauma kits and protecting certain family death benefits. And Democratic Senators Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota and Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada sought to pass them by unanimous consent. But Booker sought to offer an amendment requiring the Trump administration to distribute public safety resources among red and blue states without political bias, a request that has threatened to upend the bill's passage. So let's just pause for a second. That speech was him fighting with Democrats over a procedural issue where Klobuchar and Masta wanted to pass this funding for policing equipment and death benefits by unanimous consent, and Cory Booker got on his soapbox because he wanted an amendment included that said that it would not be biased in the distribution of those resources.
This next bit is the how you can tell this is all bullshit for clips, which is Klobuchar and Masto both criticized Booker for bringing up his concerns on the floor where the cameras are, instead of raising them earlier in the Judiciary Committee, which he is a part of. Which approved the bills unanimously. So, because he doesn't have any actual advice of what they should be doing, etc. Besides this, except saying we need to quote unquote fight harder. It's silly. I mean, whoever leaked that to Politico from Klobuchar or Cortez Masto's office. Not a fan of their politics on this, but they're correct that this is performative theater. And Klobuchar is angling right now. There's a lot of folks that are angling to be in leadership because I think there's now understanding that Schumer is a dead man walking, basically. You have Alyssa Slotkin going out there and trying to make her case as the young senator. That's the only pitch they have, not about the politics of the person. It's if they're young. And then I think Klobuchar, because she's already in leadership, is making an angle for it as well. It can't be either of those people. It's got to be like a Van Hollen or somebody. That's my pick, or even a Chris Murphy would be better, but I think he's going to run for president. This final sentence is also great. Booker did not ultimately object to the floor to the two police bills, and they passed by unanimous consent.
Okay.
You know, Emma, you talk a real tough game, but if you want to get to Cory Booker, you have to go through Cory Booker first, all right? I mean, it's funny because his whole like moral stand at the end was, when are we going to come together and unite? Well, it seems like they united against you here. It was a bipartisan effort. I mean,
when are we going to come together and unite? 30 minutes later, when the bill passes by unanimous consent.
Right. He united against himself there. He managed to be against himself and go through himself to get to himself.
He did. If you're wrong, hey, Cory, if you're going to want to get to Cory Booker, you're going to have to go through Cory Booker.
It's impossible to interpret this as anything other than a guy realizing he's got to make up ground because the sands are shifting underneath his feet, particularly on the question of Israel, which Booker has been a huge supporter of Israel to the point of being the co-founder of the Yale, I believe, organization that invited Itamar Ben-Gvir for a little chit-chat a few months ago before he came here and ended up leading some fascists in a mob that roughed up two Jewish women in Brooklyn.
Look up Rabbi Shmuley and Cory Booker photo together.
Peter Beinart, look up. There's a good piece called "The Two Rabbis," and it's the two Rabbi Shmuleys, different spellings, but that both of them rabid anti-Palestinian racists. That Cory Booker looks to for guidance on the topic of Israel-Palestine.
I think he was hoping that like the average American pays so little attention to media that like they thought that he was still speaking, like that Cory Booker, like he was hoping that people would just think that he never stopped speaking that first time. And he's just been holding the torch this entire time.
On the floor,
I thought it was,
pants.
I thought that was like the same thing at first when I saw this across the timeline. At first I'm like, oh, people are just going back through that 22 hours.
And I'm really excited to talk to Crystal tomorrow about her interview with Alyssa Slotkin. But like, what stands out with all of this is Slotkin was saying to Crystal in that interview, well, she was talking out of both sides of her mouth. She was saying how she's not as invested in this is such an online issue, Israel-Palestine. I have to deal with my constituents and Michiganders on a day-to-day basis. But then later in the interview, she was saying how, no, this is a very personal issue for our community in Michigan because we have a large Muslim and Arab population and a large Jewish population, and I've had conversations with them. So which one is it? Is it something that's affecting the Michigan citizens, or is it one that's just like way too online? Because they're desperate to deflect from the fact that this is about to be a major litmus test of authenticity and of bravery and political courage within the Democratic Party. So they're going to perform courage in other ways that are completely separated from the issue at hand.
All right. It's too late for all of them, just to get it straight. It's too late. They all blew it. Every single one of them. And even in this recent turn of events where all of a sudden some guys, some of these Congress people are putting out statements for the first time sympathetic towards Palestinians, it's not a good enough statement. Still bringing up things that, like, for example, bringing up October 7th or something. We're beyond that. We're beyond that now in terms of the current crisis going on in the region. So the idea that they still can't bring up the starvation of men, women, and children in Gaza without bringing up other things to sort of placate the other side that doesn't deserve to be placated anymore, to be completely straight. They never did, but definitely don't deserve it now. It's too late. It's too late for them. And I hope everyone remembers who the very few brave Congress people were who spoke up from the very beginning and who were just trying to do it now that it's politically expedient to their career.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Here's this piece, just so people can look back. Daily Beast article, Peter Beinart, 2013, Cory Booker's Rabbis. It has this section here. It's kind of a long article, but I think I got it. How could rabbis so blind to injustice? This is after going into how both of them are anti-Palestinian state. How could rabbis so blind to injustice against Palestinians forge such a close bond to a politician who has built his political persona on impassioned pleas for justice? That sound familiar? The answer, according to almost everyone I asked, is simple. Cory, Shmuley, and Shmuley, the two Shmuleys, don't discuss Israeli politics. Cory and I haven't talked a lot about this issue, explains Hecht. I never got into what Cory's politics are in Israel, but CARP members never had a long conversation about Israel. Anyway, it's just interesting to have two really close advisors. And what Shmuley Boteach is that nutcase whose daughter was celebrating the falling of bombs right after October 7th. I got that. But I recommend that article for people who want to know Cory Booker's background on this stuff, and that's why he feels the need to go back to these sort of impassioned pleas that get media attention from.
I mean, they were complicit in a genocide just 2 weeks ago. They were providing the weapons. When they say it's it's bad now, it's stop doing it then. Stop. I don't know what to say. The American government is doing it. They're this thing that we're doing is bad now. We wish it would stop. It's stop doing it, brother. I know the Senate, each individual Senate or Congress person doesn't have the ability to stop doing it now, but they were sure had the ability to vote to give more weapons to Israel 2 weeks ago. So perhaps they should use some of that power. It's amazing how they had enough power to keep giving weapons, but that seemed to not be in play now.
Yeah.
And Cory Booker apparently announced after his floor speech, his new book, which is called Stand. Looking at it now, and it's the background photo is of that appears to be the March on Washington, right? Can we just put this up really quickly? I sent it in chat. That appears to be invoking the civil rights movement. There it is. Stand. And at this, Martin Luther King's approval rating was taking a major hit towards the end of his life. Not that he was ever very popular, just giving a heads up to people that think we should change party policy based on how basic rights for people poll. But that was in part due to his opposition to our war in Vietnam. And it was an unpopular stand to take at the time because it required courage as opposed to the persistent lack of courage that is completely a part of Cory Booker's political identification and history.
He is a commodification of the radical aesthetic and civil rights aesthetic in this country. It is malicious. It is an enemy to progress in this country. There's this tweet here, which is him quoting Fred Hampton.
Oh God.
Quote, we've got to face the fact that some people want to say you fight fire best with fire, but we say you put fire out best with water. We say you don't fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity. Quote Fred Hampton, hashtag Black History Month. Kambala Musavili has a good reply here, which is just the rest of the quote. We say we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism. We're going to fight it with socialism. Say that, Cory Booker, he would explode if he said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism.
And then the state killed him.
Cory Booker would be like, wait, why are we fighting capitalism at all?
Well, I mean,
his Wall Street donors would call him into their office to complain about like the quote.
It's insane. Well,
He's a plant.
yeah, he's definitely. But I don't think this bullshit's gonna work. Do you guys? He already tried to run for president.
Oh yeah, when he was like hanging out with what's her name?
I know people have forgotten that, but
I don't remember that.
no, he tried to run. Him and
When?
Gillibrand also.
Oh, with the ranch thing.
Yeah,
the dressing.
she was the Me Too candidate that is, in favor of Andrew Cuomo this last cycle.
Oh, he officially announced in 2020.
Yeah,
It's like a Mandela effect thing. I don't remember that at all.
Speaking of Mandela, I'm sure we could find some Cory Booker quotes that are just completely ripping Mandela of the meaning of his work in his tweet history.
I mean,
it's not just
he's photographed with Benjamin Netanyahu with a picture of Frederick Douglass over his shoulder. Like it's heinous. It's such a fucking joke of our history that this guy gets to parade around as like a mascot for like the good things in the country when he's actually oppressive.
And I mean, it's not just Cory Booker, right? The entire Democrat Party feels like they own the political legacy of the civil rights movement when many of them are old enough to have participated and they just didn't. Like that was the crazy thing about it. It's like a lot of them are old enough to have been involved in the civil rights movement, but on the wrong side. But they still feel very
like Joe Biden.
Like Joe Biden, like Hillary Clinton, they still feel inclined to lecture people as though like they're living in the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. when they clearly aren't. But that's just part of the neoliberal project to strip politics of all meaning besides the symbolic and the rhetorical. And, that includes defanging the civil rights movement, having protests be something that they, having protests be conceived in such a way that they present no danger to the powers that be. And then, trying to sell that to people who are trying to feed their kids with like less and less.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.